Welcome, dear listeners, to another shadowed corner of the throne of nightmares, where the veil between the living and the lost thins to a whisper. I am your guide through these forsaken tales, the one who unearths the forgotten bloodlines, the cursed institutions, and the vanishing families that claw their way back from oblivion to haunt our waking hours. Tonight, we delve into a portrait not merely painted, but etched in the ether, a canvas that captures more than flesh and fabric. It is Rose Cavanaugh's final portrait. Surrounded by her dolls, the 1884, a relic that stares back with eyes that never blink, eyes that hold secrets buried in porcelain and pain. Imagine, if you will, the dim glow of a gas lamp flickering in a dusty museum archive, its light dancing across a framed oil painting yellowed by time. The subject, a woman of ethereal beauty, her skin pale as moonlight, seated in a high back chair amid a sea of dolls. These are no ordinary playthings, lifelike figures with glass eyes that seem to follow your gaze, their tiny dresses ruffled in eternal stillness. Rose Cavanaugh, the woman at the center, wears a gown of midnight velvet, her hands folded delicately in her lap, but her expression. That is where the chill begins. It is a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, a facade cracking under the weight of unspoken horrors. And those dolls. They surround her like silent sentinels, their faces mirrors of her own lost innocence, or perhaps something far more sinister. As the lamp's flame sputters, you lean closer, drawn by an inexplicable pull. The air grows heavy, scented with aged lavender and the faint metallic tang of decay. You swear you hear a child's laughter echo from the canvas, faint and fractured, as if trapped in the brushstrokes themselves. This is no mere artwork. It is a gateway to a nightmare long sealed away. What drove Rose to pose amid this macabre assembly? Why does the portrait refuse to fade, its colors as vivid today as in 1884? And why, in the dead of night, do those who gaze too long upon it report dreams of tiny hands reaching out from the shadows? In the Victorian era, a time when death danced hand in hand with the living, portraits were more than mementos. They were talismans against oblivion. But Rose's final image is a curse disguised as art, a testament to a bloodline extinguished not by fate, but by something that defies the grave. Tonight, we unravel her story thread by thread, descending into the abyss of her haunted legacy. Prepare yourselves, for as we speak, the dolls awaken in their glass cases, their eyes turning toward you. Let the tale begin. Pause for effect. Soft, eerie doll-like music box tune plays faintly. The year is 1884, and the world teeters on the brink of modernity, yet clings to the superstitions of old. In the fog-shrouded hills of rural New England, America's own Gothic heartland, where Puritan ghosts still whisper through the pines, stands Cavanaugh Manor, built in the early 1800s by Rose's grandfather, a shipping magnate whose fortune was forged in the treacherous Atlantic trade. The house looms like a sentinel over the village of Eldridge Hollow. Its spires pierce the perpetual mist, windows like hollow eyes staring down at the cobbled streets below. Eldridge Hollow itself is a place forgotten by progress. Horse-drawn carriages clatter over uneven stones, gas lamps cast elongated shadows that twist like specters, and the air carries the perpetual scent of wood smoke mingled with the damp earth of nearby graveyards. Rose Cavanaugh was born into this world in 1852, the only daughter of Elias and Marguerite Cavanaugh. Elias, a stern man with a beard like iron filings, inherited the family wealth but squandered much of it on ill-fated investments in the burgeoning railroad boom. Marguerite, fragile and ethereal, was the epitome of Victorian femininity, delicate features framed by auburn curls, her days spent in the parlor embroidering samplers or playing melancholy tunes on the pianoforte. Rose, as a child, was their pride, a girl with porcelain skin, wide blue eyes, and a laugh that echoed through the manor's vast halls like silver bells. But beneath the veneer of privilege lurked the shadows of mortality. Tragedy first struck in 1860, when Rose was 8. A scarlet fever epidemic swept through Eldridge Hollow, claiming her 2 younger brothers, Thomas and little Edmund. The boys, aged 5 and 3, withered away in their shared nursery, their tiny bodies racked by feverish delirium. Rose watched from the doorway, forbidden to enter lest she too succumb, as the local physician bled them with leeches and muttered prayers. Marguerite, devastated, retreated into a shell of grief, her once vibrant eyes dulled to hollow sockets. Elias buried the boys in the family plot behind the manor, under twin headstones carved with cherubs that seemed to weep in the rain. In the wake of loss, Marguerite turned to a peculiar solace doll making. Victorian mothers, you see, often crafted effigies of their departed children as a way to cling to their memory. These were no crude rag dolls, but exquisite creations of wax and porcelain dressed in the deceased's clothing, their faces molded to mimic the lost one's features. Marguerite's dolls began innocently enough, a likeness of Thomas with his tousled hair, another of Edmund clutching a toy soldier. She would sit for hours in the attic workshop, the air thick with the scent of melted wax and paint, whispering to them as if they lived. Rose, fascinated and frightened, would creep upstairs to watch. "They're our guardian angels now," her mother would say, her voice a fragile thread. "They watch over us from their little thrones." But as the years passed, the dolls multiplied. Marguerite's grief twisted into obsession. She began collecting antique dolls from Europe, bisque-headed beauties from France, wooden-peg dolls from Germany, arranging them in the nursery like a silent court. Rose, now a teenager, felt their glass eyes upon her, judging, waiting. At night, she dreamed of them stirring, their tiny limbs creaking as they climbed from shelves to dance in the moonlight. By 1870, Rose had blossomed into a young woman of striking beauty, courted by the sons of local gentry. She married Jonathan Hargrove, a dashing lawyer from Boston, in a lavish ceremony at the manor. Jonathan, with his sharp features and ambitious gleam, promised a life of escape from the stifling hollow. They honeymooned in Paris, where Rose first encountered the opulent doll shops of the Rue de la Paix, stores brimming with automata that twirled and blinked, their mechanisms a marvel of clockwork ingenuity. She purchased one, a porcelain girl with real human hair, as a gift for her mother. Little did she know it would become the harbinger of further doom. The couple returned to Cavanaugh Manor, as Jonathan's practice required proximity to Eldridge Hollow's courts. Soon Rose was with child. Joy briefly pierced the gloom, a daughter, Amelia, born in 1872, followed by a son, William, in 1874. The manor echoed with laughter once more, but fate, that cruel puppeteer, was not done. In the harsh winter of 1876, a fire ravaged the east wing, sparked, some whispered, by a toppled candle in the nursery. Jonathan perished trying to save the children, his screams lost in the roar of flames. Amelia and William, trapped in their cribs, succumbed to smoke and heat. Rose, away visiting relatives, returned to ashes and agony. The survivors, Rose and her aging mother, were left in a house scarred by char and sorrow. Margaret, already fragile, descended into madness, convinced the dolls had warned her of the blaze. "They whispered to me," she ranted, "but I didn't listen." She expanded her collection, commissioning life-sized wax figures resembling the lost grandchildren. These effigies, dressed in singed remnants of the children's clothes, were posed around the dining table in the parlor chairs as if the family endured. Rose, shattered, found solace in her mother's delusion. She began assisting in the workshop, her hands shaping clay into faces that echoed her own grief-stricken features. Whispers spread through Eldridge Hollow. The Cavanaugh women were witches, binding souls to their creations. Villagers crossed the street to avoid them, and the manor's gates rusted shut. Rose, now the lady of the house after Margaret's quiet death in 1880, found in the attic, surrounded by her dolls, a serene smile on her lips, embraced isolation. She poured her inheritance into importing rare materials, Chinese silk for dresses, Italian glass for eyes that caught the light like trapped stars. Her dolls numbered in the hundreds, each a vessel for her unspoken anguish. It was in this cocoon of solitude that the artist entered her life. Elias Beaumont, itinerant painter from New Orleans, arrived in Eldridge Hollow in the spring of 1884, known for his naturalistic portraits that captured the raw essence of his subjects. Influenced by the emerging naturalism movement sweeping Europe and America, He sought commissions among the reclusive wealthy. Rose, intrigued by his reputation, invited him to the manor. "Paint me as I am," she instructed, "surrounded by my family." Beaumont, a man of brooding intensity with eyes like storm clouds, set up his easel in the grand salon. The room, vast and vaulted, was a shrine to the dolls, shelves lined with porcelain princesses, armoires bursting with wax infants, and in the center a throne-like chair where Rose would sit. As he sketched, she regaled him with tales of her losses, her voice a silken thread weaving sorrow into art. The dolls, she claimed, were more than mementos. They were alive with the spirits of the departed. "They speak to me at night," she confided, her fingers tracing a doll's cheek. "They promise reunion." Beaumont dismissed it as fancy, but as days turned to weeks, unease crept in. Shadows seemed to shift when no one moved. A doll's head would turn slightly between sittings. One evening, as thunder rumbled outside, he swore he heard giggling from the canvas itself. Rose's pose grew more rigid, her smile fixed, as if she too were becoming one of her creations. And so, dear listeners, we plunge deeper into the web of Rose Cavanaugh's unraveling world. Picture the manor in the summer of 1884, vines clawing at the stone facade like skeletal fingers, the gardens overgrown with thorns that snag at skirts and skin. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of beeswax and lavender sachets, masking the undercurrent of mold from rain-seeped walls. Rose, at 32, moves through the halls like a ghost in her own home, her black mourning gown whispering against the polished floors. She has not worn color since the fire, her wardrobe a perpetual shroud. Elias Beaumont's arrival disrupts this stasis. He is a tall figure, cloaked in a frock coat dusted with travel, his portfolio brimming with sketches of Creole beauties and Bayeux mystics. "Your story intrigues me, madam," he says upon their first meeting in the foyer, his voice laced with a southern drawl that curls like smoke. Rose, standing beneath the grand staircase adorned with doll sentinels, extends a gloved hand. "Then capture it eternally," she replies, her eyes gleaming with a fervor that unnerves him. The sittings begin at dawn, when the light filters through lace curtains in soft, ethereal beams. Rose positions herself in the salon, encircled by her most cherished dolls. There is Amelia's likeness, a wax child with ringlets and a lace pinafore, posed with a toy rattle. William's effigy clutches a wooden horse, its glass eyes reflecting the flames of the hearth. Dozens more fan out antique bisque dolls from Thuringia, their cheeks rouged like fevered skin. Peg-legged wooden figures from England's Queen Anne era, their painted faces cracked with age. Even paper dolls, flat and fragile, pinned to the walls like captured butterflies. Beaumont mixes his oils, the palette a riot of umbers and siennas, as Rose speaks of her childhood. "The dolls were always there," she murmurs, her gaze distant. "Mother said they were our protectors, wards against the dark." He nods, his brush stroking the canvas, capturing the subtle play of shadow on her face. But as the portrait takes shape, peculiarities emerge. A doll's arm, limp in one session, appears raised in the next. Rose laughs it off. They grow restless like children before bed. Beaumont, rational to his core, attributes it to drafts or his own fatigue. Nights in the manor are a symphony of unease. Beaumont lodges in a guest chamber, its four-poster bed draped in heavy velvet. Sleep eludes him, floorboards creak as if tiny feet patter across them. One midnight, awakened by a chill, he ventures to the attic workshop. Moonlight spills through a skylight, illuminating workbenches strewn with half-formed heads, eyes staring blankly from clay sockets. In the corner, a life-sized doll sways gently, as if breathing. He flees, heart-pounding, dismissing it as wind. Rose's tales grow darker. She recounts the fire in vivid detail, the acrid smoke, Jonathan's final cry, the children's silenced wails. "I should have died with them," she whispers during a sitting, tears tracing her cheeks. Beaumont, moved, incorporates the emotion. Her eyes in the portrait hold a depth of sorrow that borders on madness. Villagers, glimpsing him in town, warn him the Cavanaugh curse claims all who linger. Tales of vanished servants, of dolls found in impossible places, circulate like fog. As July fades into August, the portrait nears completion. Rose insists on additions, more dolls crowding the frame, their faces turned toward her like worshippers. Beaumont complies, though unease gnaws at him. During a storm-ravaged afternoon, lightning illuminates the salon, and for a split second he sees the doll's eyes glow. Rose smiles serenely, they approve. Yet, beneath her composure, Rose fractures. In private, she converses with the dolls, setting places for them at tea, reading bedtime stories to empty cribs. Her health wanes, pale skin turning sallow, hands trembling as she sews tiny garments. Beaumont overhears her one evening. "Soon my darlings will be together forever." He confronts her, but she waves him away. "You don't understand. They call to me from beyond." The climax of Part I approaches with the unveiling. Beaumont, brush in hand, adds the final touches, a subtle sheen to Rose's lips, a glint in a doll's eye. As he steps back, a cold draught extinguishes the lamps. In the darkness, tiny voices whisper, "Mama, stay." When light returns, Rose is unchanged, but Beaumont's reflection in a mirror shows scratches on his cheek, marks like small fingernails. The shadows lengthen, listeners, as we venture into the heart of the nightmare. August 1884 cloaks Eldridge Hollow in oppressive heat, the air humming with cicadas that sound like distant screams. Cavanaugh Manor, once a bastion of elegance, now pulses with an unnatural life. Elias Beaumont, ensnared by the commission, finds himself a reluctant witness to Rose's descent. The portrait, nearly finished, dominates the salon, a masterpiece of naturalism, capturing the raw vulnerability of its subject. Rose sits enthroned amid her doll court, her expression a blend of maternal tenderness and quiet desperation. But anomalies plague the canvas brushstrokes. Beaumont doesn't recall subtle shifts in the doll's poses. "It's as if the painting breathes," he confides to his journal, hidden in his chamber. Rose's hauntings intensify. One dawn she awakens to find her bed surrounded by dolls, their glass eyes fixed upon her. They moved in the night, she tells Beaumont, her voice trembling. He searches the house, finding no intruders, but footprints, tiny, bare, in the dust. Skeptical, he attributes it to Rose's somnambulism, yet doubt creeps in when a doll vanishes from the salon, only to reappear in his bed, its dress stained with what looks like blood but proves to be red paint. Conflicts erupt. Beaumont urges Rose to seek medical aid. "This obsession consumes you," she retorts with fury. "They are my children. Would you abandon your own?" Their arguments echo through the halls, stirring the dolls into apparent agitation. Shelves rattling, eyes seeming to track the combatants. Villagers, hearing rumors, gather at the gates, murmuring of witchcraft. A local priest, Father Harlan, visits, sprinkling holy water and reciting exorcisms. "Evil festers here," he warns, but Rose bars him entry. "My family needs no salvation." Mysterious elements unfold. During a sitting, a storm brews, wind howling like banshees. Lightning strikes a nearby oak, and in the flash, Beaumont glimpses figures, child-sized shadows, darting behind Rose. She collapses, feverish, babbling of visions, her lost children beckoning from a porcelain realm, promising eternal play if she joins them. Beaumont tends her, but in her delirium, she reveals a secret. The dolls contain locks of hair from the deceased, woven into their scalps, a Victorian memento mori twisted into something arcane. As September nears, the haunting peaks. Beaumont, alone in the salon one night, hears music, a tinkling lullaby from a long, broken music box. The portrait's dolls appear animated, their painted limbs subtly extended. Terrified, he covers the canvas, but tiny hands tug at the cloth. Rose, recovering, confesses, "I bound them here. With needle and thread I sewed their souls." She describes rituals learned from Marguerite, incantations over wax, blood pricked into clay, to trap spirits in effigies. The final confrontation, Beaumont demands to destroy the dolls. "This madness ends!" Rose, wild-eyed, defends them. "They are all I have!" In the struggle, a shelf collapses, dolls shattering in a cascade of porcelain shards. Amid the debris, whispers rise, a chorus of childish voices pleading, "Don't leave us." Beaumont flees to his room, barring the door. Dawn brings the culmination. Rose poses one last time, the portrait complete save for her eyes. As Beaumont paints, she stiffens, her breath shallowing. "They're calling," she murmurs, Her hand reaches for a doll, and in that moment life ebbs. She slumps, lifeless, surrounded by her creations. Beaumont, horrified, finishes the eyes, capturing her final gaze, eternally vigilant. He abandons the manor, the portrait left behind. Villagers find Rose amid the dolls, her death ruled natural, but whispers persist, her spirit lingers in the canvas. Now, listeners, let us step back from the personal abyss and explore the broader tapestry of history and legend that wove Rose's fate. The Victorian era, spanning 1837 to 1901 under Queen Victoria's reign, was a time of profound contradiction, industrial progress clashing with rigid social mores, scientific enlightenment shadowed by rampant superstition. Death was omnipresent, with high infant mortality rates, often 150 per 1,000 births, making grief a constant companion. Families like the Cavanaughs were not unique in their losses. Epidemics like scarlet fever and fires in poorly constructed homes claimed countless lives. Mourning practices were elaborate rituals designed to honor the dead while shielding the living from their spectral grasp. Widows like Rose adhered to strict codes, full mourning in black crepe for 2 years, followed by half mourning in greys and lavenders. Homes were draped in black, mirrors covered to prevent spirits from trapping souls in reflections, and clocks stopped at the time of death to mark the eternal pause. Post-mortem photography emerged as a poignant custom, especially after the daguerreotype's invention in 1839. Deceased loved ones, often children, were posed as if asleep or alive, propped with stands or held by relatives, their eyes sometimes painted open on the print. These memento mori images served as lasting tributes in an age before casual photography. Dolls played a central role in this culture of remembrance. In Victorian England and America, dolls were not mere toys but symbols of status and education. Porcelain dolls, crafted in Germany and France, became luxury items for the affluent, their bisque heads and jointed limbs mimicking human anatomy. Wax dolls, popular from the mid-19th century, offered lifelike realism, often incorporating real hair and glass eyes. For grieving families, mourning dolls were commissioned, effigies resembling deceased children, dressed in their clothes and displayed in homes or even buried with the family. This practice blended sentiment with the macabre, echoing ancient traditions where dolls served as grave goods or spirit vessels. In 1884 specifically, the year of Rose's portrait, the world buzzed with artistic evolution. The naturalism movement, emphasizing realistic depictions of everyday life and human emotion, influenced painters like Beaumont. In America, the Statue of Liberty's cornerstone was laid, symbolizing hope amid immigration waves, while in England, art exhibitions at the Royal Academy showcased over 1,800 works, many exploring themes of domesticity and loss. Supernatural undercurrents persisted, spiritualism flourished, with seances and mediumship claiming to contact the dead, often using props like dolls as conduits. Legends of haunted dolls abound in 19th-century folklore. Stories from Europe tell of automata cursed by makers' unfulfilled wishes, or wax figures animated by trapped souls. In America, tales like those inspiring Robert the Doll, though from the early 20th century, echo Victorian fears, where mistreated effigies wreaked havoc. Creepy doll narratives, such as M.R. James's The Haunted Doll's House, so 1923, draw from earlier oral traditions of possessed playthings. These blend with cultural trauma, the era's child labor horrors and orphanage overcrowding fueled fears of lost innocence, manifesting in dolls as uncanny reminders. Rose's story, while fictionalized here, mirrors these elements. Her dolls, a fusion of mourning custom and supernatural dread, set against 1884's artistic and societal backdrop. This authenticity lends an unsettling verisimilitude, as if history itself conspires to blur the line between fact and phantasm. Delving into the psyche's shadows, listeners, we dissect the symbols and fears embedded in Rose's tale. Dolls, those miniature humans, embody profound psychological archetypes. In Freudian terms, they represent the uncanny, familiar yet alien, evoking dread through their lifelike inertness. Rose's creations symbolize displaced maternal instincts. Unable to nurture living children, she pours her love into inanimate proxies, a coping mechanism for grief that borders on pathology. Psychologically, Dolls facilitate projection. We imbue them with our emotions, using them as stand-ins for self or others. For Rose, they mirror her fractured identity. Eternal children frozen in time, reflecting her arrested development amid loss. This ties to universal fears of mortality and abandonment. The Victorian obsession with death masks and hair jewelry reveals a cultural trauma where preserving the dead combats the void. Dolls, as eternal companions, defy decay, yet their stillness mocks life's transience. In literature, dolls symbolize control and subversion. From Hoffman's The Sandman to modern horror like Chucky, they subvert innocence, becoming vessels for repressed rage or supernatural forces. Rose's story echoes this. Her dolls, born of love, twist into tormentors, representing the dark side of human nature, the impulse to dominate death through artifice. Thematically, it connects to cultural traumas like the Industrial Revolution's dehumanization, where people felt like puppets in vast machines. Gender dynamics loom large. Victorian women, confined to domesticity, used doll-making as agency, yet it trapped them in cycles of sorrow. Rose's portrait critiques this. Surrounded by her family, she is both queen and prisoner, her smile a mask for existential horror. On a broader scale, the tale taps fears of the other. The inanimate invading the animate, blurring boundaries in an age of scientific hubris. Spiritualism's rise in 1884 reflects this anxiety, as does naturalism's focus on raw truth exposing the psyche's underbelly. Ultimately, Rose's nightmare illuminates our own, the terror of loss, the allure of immortality through creation, and the chilling realization that what we craft may outlive and outwit us. As our journey through the mists of Rose Cavanaugh's legacy draws to a close, the echoes linger like footsteps in an empty hall. The portrait, discovered years later in the abandoned manor, now resides in a private collection, its whereabouts shrouded in secrecy. Those who have viewed it report unease, a sensation of being watched, dreams of porcelain fingers brushing their skin, whispers calling them to join the silent assembly. Rose's death in 1884 marked the end of her bloodline, but not her influence. The dolls, scattered by auctioneers, have surfaced in odd places, museums, attics, even modern homes, each carrying a fragment of her curse. One owner claimed a doll rearranged furniture, another heard lullabies at midnight. Is it collective delusion, or does Rose's spirit endure, bound to her creations as she bound others? In the throne of nightmares, we confront the truth. Forgotten souls do not rest easily. Rose's final portrait stands as a warning, a canvas where grief transmutes into eternal vigil. As you turn off the light tonight, listen closely. Do you hear the faint creak of tiny joints? The soft sigh of a painted breath? Perhaps in the darkness, the dolls are watching, waiting for you to join their court. Thank you for descending with me. Until next time, may your dreams remain your own, or do they?